You're watching Football Daily, and this is our 11 of irreplaceable footballers. Goalkeeper, Jose Luis Chilavert. Nope, not Gigi Buffon, Iker Casillas or Oliver Kahn, but Jose Luis Chilavert makes our 11 instead, being named the IFFHS's world best keeper on 3 separate occasions. It wasn't just the Paraguayan's goalkeeping ability that made him irreplaceable, but also his goal-scoring prowess. Credited as the first goalkeeper to score a professional hat-trick, Chilavert made his name at Real Zaragoza, scoring once in 79 games for the Spanish side. His eccentricity actually pissed off a lot of Los Manos supporters, but it was in Argentina where he started to become a set-piece specialist. Playing for nearly a decade at Vélez Sarsfield, Chilavert scored 36 goals in just 270 league games, even getting into double digits in the 97-98 season, just 5 goals off the division's top scorer. The Bulldog also won the Copa Libertadores whilst at Vélez, and of course scored a penalty in the final shootout. Defender, Duncan Edwards. The Busby babes that passed away in the tragic plane crash are all hard to replace, but we've chosen Duncan Edwards to fill a defensive spot in this 11. By 21 years of age, Edwards had already played 177 times for Manchester United and also had 18 England caps. The 2 years before the accident, United had won back-to-back First Division titles with a relatively young squad including the likes of Bobby Charlton and Tommy Taylor, who also died during the accident. It was a long road to recovery for Sir Matt Busby and the team, who were trying to piece a successful squad back together by signing the likes of Dennis Law and Pat Creeran, with George Best coming through the youth side. United eventually won the league once again in 1965, before winning their first European Cup in 1968, all under the leadership of the great Sir Matt Busby. Defender, Billy McNeill. A name all of the Celtic fans would be familiar with, Billy McNeill, or Caesar as he was known, captained the most successful side in Celtic history, with a trophy cabinet containing 9 league titles, 7 Scottish Cups, as well as a European Cup. McNeill holds the recognition of being the first British player to lift the European Cup, when the side eventually known as the Lisbon Lions beat Inter Milan 2-1. Remarkably, all but one of the members of the squad were born within 10 miles of Celtic Park, making them the epitome of hometown heroes. After 18 years and 789 games for the boys, McNeill hung up his boots and moved into management. Celtic, however, seemed to struggle without their talismanic captain and the temporary absence of Jock Stein, failing to win a title for 3 years before they finally ended the drought in 1977. Defender, Thiago Silva. A slight twist to the rest of our 11, but back in 2014, the suspension of Thiago Silva caused complete disarray to the Brazilian backline in the last World Cup. The captain had guided the side to a semi-final where he faced the favourites, Germany. Along with the defender, poster boy Neymar also missed the game due to Zuniga fracturing the Brazilian's back. They lined up against Dimanshaft with David Luiz as captain and Dante alongside him, Bernard taking Neymar's place and somehow Fred still playing up front. It was not a pretty sight. Brazil got battered 7-1 in their own backyard. Fans were crying, the players were crying, and Thomas Müller said that they took it easy on them in the second half. Although Thiago Silva missing from the backline might not have guaranteed a win by any stretch of the imagination, his leadership would surely have seen a respectable scoreline and maybe stopped David Luiz becoming a clown for 90 minutes. Midfielder, Claude Makelele. Why put another layer of gold paint on the Bentley when you are losing the entire engine? Is the famous Zidane quote when Claude Makelele went to Chelsea for just £16 million. The reason is because Florentino Perez completely lost his mind at the end of his first tenure as Real Madrid president. Makelele won 2 league titles and a Champions League with Los Blancos during his 3-year stint at the Bernabeu. But despite the success of the team, Florentino Perez's marketing machine was in full flow, as he started to focus on flamboyancy rather than efficiency, and Makelele was an unfortunate casualty. Perez claimed that the midfielder had average technique and could only pass backwards or sideways. The president's incompetence led Madrid to not win a title for 4 years, and they only managed La Decima a decade later. Makelele himself won 2 Premier League titles during Madrid's drought, truly putting the middle finger up at Perez. Midfielder, Paul Scholes. Scholes was a player so irreplaceable that they actually had to get him out of retirement to fill the big ginger gap he vacated. Capable of pinging the ball at any tree he wanted to, according to David Beckham, Scholes seemed to retire in a blaze of glory in 2011, winning his 10th Premier League title and joining United's coaching staff. However, after 2 losses on the bounce to Blackburn and Newcastle in the 11-12 season, the Red Devils were struck with an injury crisis and called upon their old hero to help aid their title challenge. Unfortunately, it wasn't the fairy tale return Scholes must have dreamt of. United ended up finishing second to their local rivals and the famous Aguero goal against QPR. Whilst the unwillingness to play Paul Pogba instead of the 38-year-old Scholes saw the Frenchman move to Juventus on a free, which proved a pretty costly mistake. Paul Scholes though stayed on for the next season as well, and there he won his final Premier League title and retired for good. Midfielder, Michael Ballack. 2002 was a pretty bad year for Michael Ballack. His Bayer Leverkusen side finished runners-up in the league, they lost the final of the Champions League and the final of the DFB Pokal Cup, and he also lost the World Cup to Brazil. It was hard for any Leverkusen fan to think it could get any worse, but somehow it did the following season. Ballack, probably still having nightmares about the previous campaign, joined Bayern Munich for just £13 million and got a double-digit goal tally as the Bavarians romped to the league by 16 points. Leverkusen, however, had another disastrous season. Their Champions League adventure was over by Christmas, finishing bottom of their group with 0 points, and by the end of the season they placed 15th in the Bundesliga, 4 points above the relegation zone. Bayer finally seemed to be building again this season, with up-and-coming manager Roger Schmidt, but it remains to be seen whether they can topple the Bayern dominance once and for all. Midfielder, Mousa Dembele. Not quite as trophy-laden as the others on our 11, but Mousa Dembele has evolved into one of the most important midfielders in the Premier League. His skill set is unique for someone playing in a deep midfield role, as is his ability to drive forward with the ball. His dribbles per game is at around 3.2. Only Bonaventura of AC Milan has the same number in a central role, and even then, he doesn't come close to Dembele's 82% take-on success. These stats also rank him above world-class dribblers such as Dimitri Payet, Douglas Costa and Alexis Sanchez. The Belgium is irreplaceable purely because of the fact that there's no central midfielder like him, as he also provides great defensive numbers such as 2.7 tackles per game and a 60% aerial duel success. Spurs fans better pray that he stays fit all season, otherwise they'll have to see Moussa Sissoko try and replace him. Forward, the original Luis Suarez. Barcelona have been lucky enough to have 2 of the best players called Luis Suarez in their history. But we're not talking about El Pistolero, but instead the one who ruled the late 1950s and 60s and was the last Spaniard to win the Ballon d'Or. Suarez joined Barca in 1955, starring in a side featuring Coxis and Kabala and winning 2 league titles as well as averaging a goal every other game from midfield. But when coach Helenio Herrera left for Inter Milan, Suarez followed suit and became the world's most expensive player, moving for £142,000. As the forward won 3 titles and 2 European Cups in just 5 years at the Nerazzurri, Barcelona struggled, failing to win a title for the duration of the 60s. The main man in their next La Liga win, I hear you ask? Well, it was the revolutionary Johan Cruyff. Forward, Maradona. El Diego was a maverick, but a outstanding footballer as well. He led a rather average Argentinian side to win the World Cup in 1986, scoring arguably the best goal ever after the infamous Hand of God against England in the quarter-final. But rarely do you ever hear about Maradona's feats at club level, where he bagged 22 goals in just 36 games for Barcelona, as well as becoming a club icon for Napoli, a side which failed to continue their success after he left in 1991. Maradona stayed in Naples for 7 years, and upon his arrival he was treated as a king, with local papers saying that the fact they didn't have schools or sanitation didn't matter, as they had Diego Maradona. He became club captain and won 2 titles for Napoli, as the city was painted with murals of their saviour. Unfortunately, they failed to live without Maradona after he left, not winning another trophy until the Coppa Italia in 2012, after even being in Serie C as recently as 2006. Forward, Van Persie. The mention of Van Persie's name might be met with boos in North London nowadays, but Arsenal fans only have him to thank for the fact they're still a European club. That's after RVP put in one of the greatest individual performances in Premier League history. Surrounded by quality players like Gervinho, Andre Santos, and let's not forget the legend Johan Djourou, the Dutchman managed to bag 30 league goals, guiding Arsenal to third place and once again above local rivals Tottenham. Highlights of the season include a hat-trick against Chelsea at the Bridge, as well as an incredible volley against Everton on Arsenal's 125th anniversary. Van Persie was so influential that he even made Alex Song look like a decent player, as the midfielder racked up 11 assists that season. 5 campaigns on and Arsenal still haven't found a quality replacement for Van Persie, despite Giroud's valiant efforts. But with Alexis Sanchez on fire in the striker's role for the Gunners, this might be the year they can finally put the horror of Van Persie's title win at United to bed. So there we have it, but what do you guys at home think? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, why don't you click here for loads more great content and down there to subscribe. And as always guys, we'll catch you later.